Good evening. A viewer named John contacted me. He's from Eastern Kentucky, and it first started off that he had some pictures he wanted to show me of a dead deer that he thinks a dogman tore up. And I thought, oh, okay, a dead deer, dogman may or may not have done it. Then when I looked at the pictures and he gave some explanation, he started painting a bigger picture of a more terrifying encounter. And after emailing back and forth with him quite a few times and getting the whole story from him, this is really quite frightening. I guess this dogman creature came onto his property, was looking into windows, coming around the house, was scratching its nails along the side of the house, and he would catch glimpses of it through the windows, an elbow, some ears, the back of the head. And he says it was huge. He says it was between 7 and 8 feet tall, very muscular. Said it had a large head, kind of like the classic soldier types that people describe, with the long ears and the long snout. Very powerfully built. He says if it wanted to just come right through the wall like Superman, just crash through the wall, it could have done it. He had a 12 gauge with him and he didn't think it was enough, so he invested in a semi-automatic 308, which I 100% agree with. And he also talks about 44 Magnums and big guns, and I 100% agree with that. He's a Marine, so he said that he was going to put up a fight. He wasn't going to let it take him. So that brings us to the first picture here, and this is of the deer's head. Now you see those two puncture marks on the head. One, I guess, kind of went in and scraped along the side of the skull, and the other one just cleanly punctured in right through the brain. And that's pretty incredible. In Eastern Kentucky, they don't really have mountain lions. They have some black bears. They don't really have wolves. There's not a lot of big, powerful creatures that could do this, combined with the fact that he physically saw one of these creatures. He's very sure that it was a dogman that killed his deer, and I would agree with that. Here's the pond, and he found the deer now. He wanted to move the deer out of the way so the blood or anything didn't contaminate any of the water. But yeah, if you think about the biting power that it would take, I mean, I've heard stories of grizzly bears clamping down on human skulls and not having enough force in their bite to make it through because of the girth of it. And most mountain lions, bears, wolves, they go for the throat, they go for the hindquarters, they let it bleed out. They just don't out and out chomp on the deer skull. Now here's the body, and you can see the spinal column tore out with ribs broken off. You can see the legs bent back and halfway wrapped around this tree in a really bizarre way, and just completely eviscerated. There's not a lot of blood on the ground, which is very odd. So it was like something was taking and scooping things out. He said there were parts of backstrap and stuff that looked like they had to have been reached in and pulled out, something that wasn't done with like a muzzle or a snout, or with something that had to have hands. But he did find gnaw marks on it that looked like from a large dog. So it's just very disturbing, this completely destroyed deer. You know how coyotes and bears feed? Mountain lions tend to bury their stuff, and this isn't really buried. Bears kind of just tear things apart. Coyotes make a big awful mess, and this is surprisingly surgical. And the way that the spine is torn out, like it was trying to get to the backstrap. The guts are gone. That's very common in Bigfoot reports, is that's where all the nutrients are, is that they eat all the guts first. Just very bizarre. I've seen dead deer before, and I've seen carcasses in the way they're eaten out, and I haven't seen anything quite like this. The puncture marks on the skull really scare me, especially if you look at the placement of being kind of next to each other right above the eyes. It's almost like it had to bite it from the ear back towards the eyes, with the snout and nose going towards the nose and snout of the deer, or like it had the whole deer nose and face inside of its mouth, like it just fully on clamped down on the front of this deer's head, with the deer's nose inside of its mouth. And that's just, the description of 7-8 foot tall dogman werewolf creature. You wouldn't doubt that it'd be able to fit a whole deer head inside of its mouth to incapacitate it. And this is just quite terrifying to even think about. So I don't have a map of dogman sightings throughout the USA, but it's pretty similar to a lot of the areas you hear Bigfoot. Pretty much if there's forest and cover and water and game, not only do you get Bigfoot reports, you also get dogman reports. And we can see in the Kentucky area, Tennessee, Ohio area, right around in there, littered with reports of these guys. And you think of the Michigan Dogman, you think of the Beast of Bray Road, you think of all those different things all around the United States. You hear the reports of these guys. They're kind of all over, down from Florida, down in the deep south, to along the border, along Mexico. I've heard them as far northwest as Wyoming. Haven't really heard too many from like Washington State or the Pacific Northwest. I don't know if the Bigfoots displace them there or they like a little drier climate. It seems the cold doesn't bother them that much. There's plenty of prints like we see here in the snow of reported Dogman. In Michigan and Wisconsin get very, very cold. But you don't hear a lot of reports of Dogman in Canada or other parts of the nation, but essentially in the Midwest, down south, the southern areas, California, Arizona, all along the border, you get lots of Dogman reports. And I don't know what their exact physiology is. I mean, I've heard reports of them traveling in packs, but it seems like most encounters seem to be of them being alone. I don't know if it's just lone males go out on their own and those are the ones causing trouble, if there's something more along the lines of a demonic entity. I have no idea. And people report strange three-toed tracks like you see. People report, a 7-inch long kind of elongated dog tracks, which a dog taking a bipedal stance would have to have a longer foot, you would think. But then again, an upright walking dog doesn't make sense anyway, scientifically. I mean, if there's kind of scientific background for an upright walking ape in Bigfoot, and especially in humans and hominoids and all the other species that came before us or evolved alongside of us, all the different Neanderthal species and everything else, an upright walking dog really doesn't make sense. It bears, dogs, certain creatures could take a few steps on a hind foot, but these creatures just seem very unnatural. They seem like they're out just for blood, and they seem like they're there to instill fear, and I think they can be quite dangerous if they're just there to intimidate people or if they take people. Missing 411 type stuff. There's so many questions we don't know. I just encourage everybody, go out in pairs, go out in 2 or 3 people, go armed if you can, keep your wits about you. If you have a GPS tracker, do it. Tell people where you're going. If you have a firearm, practice with it. And please stay safe in the woods, folks. You never know what's out there.